Imagine a life without solace, a waking nightmare where every shadow holds a new terror, and the very air you breathe feels thick with dread. Picture yourself stripped of identity, reduced to a mere variable in an equation of unimaginable horror. This isn't a dystopian fantasy. For some, it's a grim reality, a perpetual twilight existence within the clandestine confines of the SCP Foundation. Tonight, we delve into the chilling, often unspeakable truth of what it means to be an SCP test subject. Forget the sterile labs and detached scientific inquiry you might envision. Prepare to confront the raw, visceral fear, the psychological torment, and the utter dehumanization that defines this horrifying life. Our journey will illuminate the dark corners of their existence, shedding light on the relentless experiments, the constant threat of anomalous entities, and the slow erosion of sanity that plagues these unfortunate souls. We aim to inform, yes, but more profoundly, we aim to expose the sheer terror woven into the fabric of their daily grind. We'll explore the initial capture and induction, a brutal awakening into a world far stranger and more dangerous than any nightmare. We'll examine the specific types of anomalies they are forced to interact with, from the subtly insidious to the overtly destructive. We will uncover the psychological toll, the insidious ways in which their minds are broken and reshaped, and the desperate, often futile attempts at resistance or escape. We will also touch upon the ethical quandaries, the moral compromises, and the cold, unfeeling logic that perpetuates their suffering. This isn't a tale for the faint of heart. It's a stark, unflinching look at a life consumed by fear, a life where the line between subject and monster often blurs. Prepare to bear witness to the profound, soul-crushing reality of being an SCP test subject, a horrifying existence few could ever truly comprehend, and one that, once glimpsed, is impossible to forget. Let the chilling exploration begin. The very essence of a test subject's existence within the SCP Foundation is defined by a trinity of horrors: perpetual uncertainty, systematic dehumanization, and the constant, tangible threat of anomalous phenomena. These aren't just inconveniences. They are the foundational pillars of their unending nightmare. Consider, first, the perpetual uncertainty. From the moment they are designated as D-class personnel, often plucked from death row inmates, political prisoners, or individuals deemed expendable, their lives become a series of unknowns. There are no schedules, no predictable routines, only sudden alarms, harsh commands, and the chilling metallic clang of doors sealing them into unfamiliar chambers. They never know which SCP they will face next, or what bizarre, often deadly properties it possesses. Will it be a sentient statue that snaps necks when unobserved, or a mimetic agent that rewrites their very perception of reality? This ceaseless ambiguity breeds a profound, debilitating anxiety, turning every shadow into a potential harbinger of doom. Sleep offers little respite, often plagued by fragmented memories of past encounters or the chilling premonition of future ones. Then there is the systematic dehumanization, a process meticulously engineered to break the human spirit. D-class personnel are not individuals. They are numbers, expendable assets, interchangeable cogs in a colossal, uncaring machine. Their personal belongings are confiscated, their names replaced with alphanumeric designations, and their past lives are meticulously erased. They are clad in identical drab jumpsuits, stripped of any visual cues that might suggest individuality. Communication is often restricted, social interaction discouraged, and any form of emotional expression met with indifference or punitive measures. This constant erosion of self, this reduction to a mere tool, chips away at their identity until they are little more than hollowed-out vessels, awaiting their next terrifying assignment. They are fed bland, nutrient-rich paste, housed in Spartan cells devoid of personal touches and constantly monitored, their every breath a data point for the Foundation. Finally, and perhaps most terrifyingly, is the constant, tangible threat of anomalous phenomena. These aren't theoretical dangers. They are physical, psychological, and existential horrors that defy logic and often reality itself. D-class subjects are the front line, the expendable probes sent in to gauge the lethality, the containment procedures, and the very nature of these entities. They are exposed to reality-bending artifacts, sentient organisms with malicious intent, and abstract concepts given terrifying form. Their bodies are mutated, their minds fractured, their very souls tormented by encounters that would drive ordinary individuals to madness. They are the ones who scream when the lights flicker, when the whispers begin, when the impossible becomes horrifyingly real. Their fear is not abstract. It is a primal, immediate response to dangers that defy comprehension and often survival. Beyond the immediate threats and the systematic erosion of self, the horrifying life of an SCP test subject is further defined by the insidious nature of psychological warfare, the utter lack of agency, and the chilling reality of their disposability. These are not merely unfortunate circumstances. They are deliberate mechanisms designed to maintain control and expedite experimentation. Consider the psychological warfare waged against their minds. It's not always about physical harm. Often the most profound damage is inflicted internally. Subjects are routinely exposed to mimetic hazards that corrupt their memories, cognitohazards that twist their perceptions, or reality benders that warp their understanding of existence itself. They might be forced to witness atrocities, endure prolonged isolation, or participate in experiments designed to induce extreme psychological distress. Imagine being made to believe your closest companion is a monster, or that the world outside your cell has ceased to exist. These mental assaults leave them perpetually disoriented, paranoid, and utterly incapable of distinguishing truth from the Foundation's carefully constructed illusions. Their thoughts become their own worst enemy, a labyrinth of fear and delusion from which there is no escape. Coupled with this is the complete and absolute lack of agency. A test subject has no voice, no choice, no recourse. Their bodies are not their own. They are property of the Foundation, to be used, abused, and discarded as needed. They cannot refuse an assignment, cannot question an order, and cannot even choose the manner of their own demise. Every action, every movement, every breath is dictated by unseen overseers. Their very lives are a script written by others, a grim narrative in which they are forced to play the unwilling victim. This utter powerlessness breeds a profound sense of hopelessness, a crushing weight that extinguishes any spark of rebellion or self-preservation. They are puppets, their strings pulled by an unseen, uncaring puppeteer. And finally, the chilling reality of their disposability. D-class personnel are not meant to survive. Their lifespan within the Foundation is inherently limited, often measured in weeks or even days, not years. They are the proverbial canaries in the coal mine, sent into dangerous situations with the full expectation that many will not return. Whether it's a direct termination after a particularly volatile experiment, an accidental demise at the hands of an anomaly, or a scheduled monthly amnesticization and reassignment that effectively resets their short, tormented lives, their end is always near. They are expendable, replaceable, statistics in a cold, calculating ledger. This knowledge, even if unspoken, hangs heavy in the air of every cell, every containment chamber, a constant reminder that their brief, horrifying existence is destined to conclude in anonymity and oblivion. The oppressive atmosphere within the Foundation's facilities, the relentless erosion of hope, and the profound isolation are further key aspects that define the horrifying life of an SCP test subject. These elements combine to create a pervasive sense of dread that permeates every moment of their existence. The very air they breathe within the Foundation's facilities is heavy with an oppressive atmosphere. These are not merely sterile environments. They are cold, concrete labyrinths designed for containment, not comfort. The constant hum of machinery, the distant screams that sometimes echo through ventilation shafts, the flickering fluorescent lights that cast long, unsettling shadows, all contribute to a pervasive sense of unease. Every corridor feels like a trap, every door a potential gateway to unimaginable horror. The architecture itself is a weapon, reinforcing their confinement and the absolute power of their captors. There are no windows to the outside world, no natural light, no reminders of the life they once knew. This deliberate sensory deprivation amplifies their fear, turning their own minds into a prison within a prison. This oppressive environment systematically strips away any glimmer of hope. Hope, for a D-class, is a dangerous luxury, quickly extinguished by the relentless cycle of experimentation and the omnipresent threat of termination. They witness fellow subjects disappear, often in gruesome ways, or return from tests as mere husks of their former selves. There are no promises of release, no possibility of redemption, only the certainty of more terror. Any nascent flicker of optimism is swiftly crushed by the grim reality of their situation, replaced by a deep, soul-crushing despair. They learn that resistance is futile, escape impossible, and that their only future is a premature, often agonizing end. This constant exposure to hopelessness grinds down their will to live, leaving them hollowed out and resigned to their grim fate. Finally, the profound isolation they endure is a torment in itself. While housed in proximity to other D-class, genuine connection is actively discouraged and often impossible. Trust is a liability, as any perceived weakness could be exploited by Foundation personnel or even by desperate fellow subjects. They are alone in their fear, alone in their suffering, with no one to truly confide in or seek solace from. This enforced solitude exacerbates their psychological distress, leaving them adrift in a sea of their own terror. Even when surrounded by others, the wall of fear and distrust ensures they remain utterly alone, their screams unheard, their suffering unwitnessed in any meaningful way. It is a loneliness that seeps into their very bones, an eternal chill in the heart of their nightmare. Beyond the physical and psychological torments, the true horror of an SCP test subject's existence is etched into the very fabric of their altered reality, the insidious nature of moral corruption, and the haunting legacy of their forgotten lives. These are the deeper wounds that fester long after the immediate danger has passed, if it ever truly does. Their reality itself is systematically altered, fractured beyond repair. It's not just about what they see or hear, but what they know to be true. Exposure to various SCPs can permanently rewrite their perception of physics, biology, or even identity. Some might return from an experiment believing they are an entirely different person, with memories that aren't their own. Others might develop new, terrifying senses or abilities that render them alien to themselves. Imagine perceiving the world through the eyes of a creature that sees extra dimensions, or having your own body constantly shifting and changing without your consent. This constant, unpredictable metamorphosis robs them of any stable ground, any fundamental understanding of self or surroundings. Their very being becomes a mutable, terrifying canvas upon which the Foundation paints its experiments, leaving them adrift in a sea of impossible truths. Then there is the insidious creep of moral corruption. While many D-class personnel are drawn from convicted criminals, the Foundation's methods often force even the most hardened individuals into morally reprehensible acts. They might be compelled to sacrifice a fellow subject, inflict pain upon an innocent anomaly, or participate in rituals they instinctively find abhorrent. The choice is rarely between right and wrong, but between lesser evils with their own survival hanging in the balance. This systematic erosion of their ethical compass leaves them scarred, burdened by guilt and complicity. Even if they survive, the person they once were is irrevocably tainted, their souls stained by the horrors they were forced to commit. They become instruments of the Foundation's will, their humanity slowly but surely consumed by the darkness around them. And finally, the haunting legacy of their forgotten lives. For most D-class, their past is meticulously erased. Their names, their families, their histories all become irrelevant, wiped clean from official records and often from their own minds through targeted amnestics. They are reduced to a designation, a number. This eradication of their personal history is perhaps one of the cruelest aspects, denying them even the comfort of their memories. They cease to be individuals with unique stories and become interchangeable cogs in the Foundation's grim machinery. What remains is a phantom limb of a life, a nagging sense of loss for something they can no longer recall. Their past selves are ghosts, haunting the empty chambers of their minds, a chilling reminder of everything they have lost and can never reclaim. The horror of an SCP test subject's life extends far beyond the immediate, tangible dangers, delving into the insidious nature of psychological conditioning, the profound terror of unpredictable mutation, and the ultimate indignity of being deemed utterly expendable. These are the threads that weave the tapestry of their perpetual nightmare. Psychological conditioning is a constant, subtle assault on their very identity. The Foundation doesn't just experiment on their bodies, it experiments on their minds. Through repetitive exposure to anomalies, controlled sensory input, and even deliberate misinformation, subjects can be manipulated, their perceptions warped, and their wills broken. They might be conditioned to fear specific colors, sounds, or even their own reflections. Imagine being subjected to a loop of unsettling images until your own face becomes a source of terror, or being forced to repeat nonsensical phrases until they become your only internal monologue. This systematic manipulation erodes their sense of self, turning them into malleable tools, their thoughts and reactions no longer truly their own. The conditioning is designed to make them compliant, to reduce their capacity for resistance, and ultimately to make them easier to control and dispose of. Then there is the profound terror of unpredictable mutation. Unlike a simple injury, mutation is a betrayal of the body itself, a grotesque transformation that often brings unimaginable pain and existential dread. Subjects might wake to find their limbs elongating, their skin hardening into scales, or new unfamiliar organs developing within them. These changes are rarely beneficial. They are often agonizing, disfiguring, and lethal. One day, a subject might be human, the next, a biological anomaly, a living experiment in grotesque evolution. The mirror becomes an enemy, reflecting a distorted, monstrous visage that no longer resembles the person they once were. This constant threat of internal corruption, of their own flesh turning against them, is a deeply unsettling horror, far more intimate and violating than any external threat. And finally, the ultimate indignity, being utterly expendable. This isn't just a threat, it's a fundamental tenet of their existence. D-class personnel are not considered human beings with rights or intrinsic value. They are resources, statistics, biological tools to be used and discarded. Their lives are cheap, their deaths unremarkable. Whether they are consumed by an SCP, dissected for research, or simply terminated at the end of the month, their passing is a mere footnote in the Foundation's vast, cold operations. There are no eulogies, no mourning, no recognition of their sacrifice. They are nameless, faceless, their existence serving only to further the Foundation's enigmatic goals. This disposability strips them of dignity, leaving them with a chilling understanding that their lives hold no meaning beyond their utility, a terrifying confirmation of their complete dehumanization. The true depths of horror for an SCP test subject are plumbed not just in the immediate dangers, but in the relentless, systemic suppression of their humanity, the chilling indifference of their captors, and the ever-present, crushing weight of utter powerlessness. These are the subtle, yet devastating currents that drag them further into the abyss. First, consider the systematic suppression of their humanity. The Foundation's protocols are not merely designed to contain anomalies. They are meticulously crafted to dehumanize the D-class. They are stripped of personal belongings, their names replaced by alphanumeric designations, their every movement monitored. Interactions with staff are strictly transactional, devoid of empathy or recognition of their sentience. They are spoken to as one might address a lab animal, a tool, an object, never a person. This constant, pervasive denial of their humanity is a form of psychological torture, eroding their sense of self-worth and identity. Over time, many subjects internalize this perception, beginning to see themselves not as people trapped in a nightmare, but as disposable commodities, their cries unheard, their suffering irrelevant. It is a slow, agonizing death of the spirit, leaving behind a hollow shell. Then there is the chilling indifference of their captors. The Foundation personnel, from researchers to guards, operate with a cold, clinical detachment that is perhaps more terrifying than overt cruelty. They are not sadistic, they are pragmatic. Their focus is on containment, research, and the greater good, a goal that renders individual suffering utterly inconsequential. A D-class screaming in agony during an experiment is merely data. A subject dissolving into a puddle of goo is a failed test, not a tragedy. This profound lack of empathy, this sterile professionalism in the face of unspeakable horror, creates an atmosphere of suffocating dread. There is no hope for compassion, no appeal to mercy. The gears of the Foundation grind on, utterly uncaring of the lives they crush beneath them. And finally, the crushing weight of utter powerlessness. From the moment they arrive, test subjects possess no agency whatsoever. They cannot refuse an order, cannot choose their fate, cannot even decide when or if they will eat or sleep. Every aspect of their existence is dictated by the Foundation. Their bodies are not their own. They are laboratories. Their minds are not their own. They are canvases for psychological manipulation. This absolute lack of control, this complete surrender of self, is a constant, gnawing terror. It breeds despair, extinguishes any spark of defiance, and leaves them utterly vulnerable to whatever monstrous experiment awaits them. They are trapped, helpless, and utterly at the mercy of forces far beyond their comprehension or control. Beyond the chilling psychological games and the ever-present threat of anomalous horrors, the life of an SCP test subject is defined by a more insidious, pervasive dread. The constant threat of memory alteration, the profound existential isolation, and the terrifying realization of being utterly forgotten by the outside world. These elements combine to dismantle not just their bodies, but their very souls. First, consider the constant threat of memory alteration. The Foundation doesn't just erase memories of their past lives. They actively manipulate them for experimental purposes or to ensure compliance. Subjects might be implanted with false memories, made to believe they committed heinous acts they never did, or convinced that their loved ones never existed. Imagine waking each day unsure if your memories are real, if your past is a fabrication, if the very foundation of your identity has been rewritten by unseen hands. This psychological gaslighting is a profound violation, stripping them of their personal history and leaving them adrift in a sea of manufactured truths. The self becomes a malleable thing, easily reshaped, easily broken. This isn't just about forgetting. It's about being forced to remember things that never happened, about your mind becoming a battleground for external forces. Then there is the profound existential isolation. While D-class subjects may interact with each other, these interactions are often controlled, fleeting, and steeped in mutual fear and distrust. True connection is impossible. They are isolated from the world they knew, from their families, from any sense of community. This isn't just physical confinement, it's a spiritual solitude. They exist in a void, their suffering unwitnessed, their pleas unheard by anyone who might care. The Foundation ensures that their existence is a secret, a whispered rumor at best, completely excised from public record. This isolation breeds a unique kind of despair, a loneliness so profound it can drive even the strongest minds to madness. They are ghosts haunting the sterile corridors of a clandestine prison. And finally, the terrifying realization of being utterly forgotten by the outside world. This is perhaps the cruelest cut of all. Families search, friends wonder, but the Foundation's veil of secrecy is impenetrable. Amnestics are deployed, records are expunged, and the subject's disappearance is neatly explained away. They cease to exist in any meaningful external sense. This knowledge that no one is looking for them, no one remembers them, no one will ever know what truly happened, is a heavy chain around their spirit. It means there is no hope of rescue, no chance of return. Their past lives, their hopes, their dreams, all evaporate into the Foundation's silent machinations. They are erased, not just from records, but from the collective memory of humanity, condemned to a forgotten hell. The true horrors of an SCP test subject's existence extend far beyond the immediate threat of anomalous entities or the cold indifference of their captors. It is in the slow, agonizing erosion of their self, the brutal violation of their physical autonomy, and the constant, inescapable presence of a grotesque, unnatural reality that their nightmare truly takes hold. Consider first the agonizing erosion of their self. This is a process more insidious than simple memory loss. It is a systematic chipping away at their personality, their beliefs, their very essence. Through relentless exposure to mind-bending anomalies, psychological manipulation, and the sheer trauma of their existence, subjects begin to lose touch with who they once were. Their values warp, their emotional responses dull, and their capacity for empathy dwindles. They become less a person and more a reaction, a broken instrument constantly being tested. This isn't just about sanity. It's about the core of their being dissolving, leaving behind a distorted reflection of what was once human. The self becomes a phantom, haunting a body that no longer recognizes its own identity. Next, we must confront the brutal violation of their physical autonomy. The test subject's body is not their own. It is a biological tool, a living experiment. They are injected with unknown substances, subjected to surgical alterations, exposed to radiation, or modified by anomalous effects, all without consent. Their pain is a data point, their screams merely background noise. This isn't just about injury. It's about the complete denial of bodily integrity, the transformation of their flesh into a canvas for scientific curiosity, no matter how grotesque the outcome. Imagine your own body becoming a stranger to you, contorted by forces beyond your control, a vessel for suffering rather than a home for your spirit. It is a profound and terrifying loss of self-ownership. Finally, there is the constant, inescapable presence of a grotesque, unnatural reality. The world of the Foundation is a place where the laws of physics bend and break, where nightmares walk, and where the impossible is commonplace. Test subjects are forced to confront entities that defy logic, beings that warp perception, and phenomena that shatter the very fabric of existence. This exposure is not fleeting. It is their daily life. Their minds are constantly assaulted by sights and sounds that humanity was never meant to comprehend, forcing them to adapt to a universe far more terrifying and chaotic than they ever imagined. This perpetual confrontation with the abnormal warps their understanding of reality, leaving them permanently scarred by the impossible, forever haunted by the shadow of the grotesque. Beyond the tangible threats and psychological assaults, the true depths of a test subject's horrifying life are found in the systematic stripping of their free will, the constant, gnawing fear of the unknown, and the ultimate, crushing realization of their utter disposability. These are the threads that weave the fabric of their perpetual nightmare. First, consider the systematic stripping of their free will. From the moment they arrive, test subjects are stripped of all agency. Every action, every movement, every word is dictated by their handlers. They are ordered to enter containment chambers, to interact with dangerous anomalies, to endure painful procedures, and to follow commands without question. Disobedience is met with swift, brutal punishment, or worse, termination. This isn't just about following rules. It's about the complete eradication of personal choice, the transformation of a sentient being into a mere automaton. Their minds are still their own, perhaps, but their bodies are not. The constant erosion of their ability to choose, to decide, to simply be, leaves them hollow, their spirit crushed under the weight of absolute control. Then, there is the constant gnawing fear of the unknown. Every containment breach, every new protocol, every unfamiliar sound echoing down the sterile corridors sparks a fresh wave of terror. They rarely understand the full scope of the anomalies they interact with, or the true purpose of the experiments. This deliberate lack of information fosters a pervasive, existential dread. What new horror awaits them around the next corner? What unspeakable creature will they be forced to confront next? The unknown is a phantom limb of fear, always present, always throbbing. It's not just the fear of death, but the fear of how they might die, or what abominable state they might be transformed into before death finally claims them. And finally, the ultimate crushing realization of their utter disposability. Test subjects are D-class personnel, deemed expendable from the outset. Their lives are cheap, their deaths a mere statistic in a research report. They witness their peers vanish, scream, or dissolve, only for new faces to appear the next month, filling the same roles. This constant turnover reinforces the chilling truth. They are replaceable. Their individual suffering, their unique humanity, means nothing to the Foundation. This realization is a psychological death sentence, robbing them of any hope, any sense of value, leaving them with the cold certainty that their end will be meaningless, their existence a fleeting, horrifying footnote in the annals of anomaly containment. The chilling reality for an SCP test subject extends into a grim trinity of horrors. The profound psychological trauma inflicted by constant exposure to the anomalous, the profound existential isolation that severs all ties to humanity, and the relentless physical degradation that reduces them to mere biological components. These elements combine to forge a living hell from which there is no escape. First, the profound psychological trauma. Imagine being routinely subjected to sights, sounds, and concepts that defy human comprehension, that twist reality into an unrecognizable, terrifying form. This isn't a single traumatic event. It's a daily regimen of mind-breaking encounters. Subjects might witness fellow D-class personnel dissolving into impossible shapes, or hear whispers from entities that exist outside of space and time, or even have their own perceptions irrevocably altered. The cumulative effect is a shattered psyche, riddled with phobias, paranoia, and a deep-seated madness that makes sanity an unreachable luxury. Their minds become battlegrounds, perpetually assaulted by the unnatural, leaving them profoundly broken, their inner world a landscape of terror. Then, there is the profound existential isolation. Stripped of their past identities, their memories often altered or erased, and confined within the sterile, unforgiving walls of Foundation sites, test subjects are utterly alone. They are denied contact with the outside world, with family, with friends, any connection that might remind them of their humanity. Their interactions are limited to cold, clinical researchers or fellow D-class, equally desperate and expendable. This isn't just loneliness, it's a complete severance from the human race, a forced detachment that leaves them adrift in a vast, uncaring void. They become non-persons, ghosts in a machine, forgotten by the world and slowly forgetting themselves. The silence of their isolation is often more deafening than any scream. Finally, the relentless physical degradation. Beyond the immediate dangers of anomalous exposure, test subjects often endure chronic pain, strange mutations, and unexplained illnesses as a direct result of their work. Their bodies are not healed with care, but patched up just enough to continue their grim duties. They are expendable tissue, and their physical well-being is secondary to the data they provide. Limbs might be lost, organs might fail, or their very cellular structure could be subtly altered, leaving them as grotesque parodies of their former selves. Their physical form becomes a testament to their suffering, a decaying vessel carrying a broken mind, a constant reminder of the horrific experiments that have ravaged them. The true horror embedded within the life of an SCP test subject is further solidified by three insidious elements: the constant, looming threat of transformation into something utterly inhuman, the pervasive sense of being nothing more than a tool, and the chilling, cold indifference of their captors, which eclipses even the most monstrous of anomalies. Firstly, consider the constant, looming threat of transformation. It's not just about dying. It's about ceasing to be human. Subjects are routinely exposed to anomalies that can twist flesh, warp minds, or fundamentally alter their very existence. They might be forced to interact with an object that turns bone into glass, or a creature that slowly converts organic matter into something alien and horrifying. This isn't a quick death. It's a slow, agonizing metamorphosis, a forced evolution into a monstrous form. The terror lies in the loss of self, the creeping dread that their own body could betray them, becoming an instrument of the anomalous. They live under the shadow of becoming the very thing they are meant to help contain, a grotesque experiment in itself, a living testament to the Foundation's cold disregard. Secondly, the pervasive sense of being nothing more than a tool. Every action, every instruction, every interaction reinforces this brutal truth. They are not individuals with rights or feelings. They are instruments, disposable components in a grand, terrifying machine. Their pain is data, their screams are observations, their deaths are statistical anomalies. They are pushed into dangerous situations not because their lives are valued, but because the information gleaned from their suffering is deemed necessary. This constant objectification strips away their dignity, leaving them with the crushing weight of their own insignificance. They are sentient hammers, used until they break, then discarded without a second thought, their purpose fulfilled by their destruction. Finally, and perhaps most chillingly, the cold indifference of their captors. The scientists and guards are not inherently evil, but their dedication to the SCP Foundation's mission renders them utterly detached. They observe suffering with clinical precision, analyze agony with scientific rigor, and implement lethal protocols without a flicker of remorse. There are no impassioned speeches, no moments of mercy, only the sterile logic of containment. This indifference is often more terrifying than outright cruelty, for it implies a total lack of empathy, a void where compassion should reside. It's a silent, pervasive horror that transcends the physical, a testament to how easily humanity can be eroded in the pursuit of a greater, albeit darker, good. The terrifying reality for an SCP test subject is further compounded by a pervasive sense of powerlessness, the agonizing loss of their personal narrative, and the chilling realization that their very existence is a secret that can never be revealed. These elements conspire to dismantle not just their bodies, but their very souls. Firstly, the pervasive sense of powerlessness. Imagine a life where every choice is made for you, every movement dictated, every interaction monitored. Test subjects are prisoners, utterly at the mercy of their handlers and the anomalies they are forced to confront. They cannot refuse an assignment, cannot negotiate terms, cannot even choose the manner of their own death. This absolute lack of control is a torment in itself, eroding any sense of agency or self-worth. They are puppets on invisible strings, forced to dance to a tune of terror, their every struggle a futile gesture against an insurmountable force. The Foundation's power is absolute, and in its shadow, the test subject is nothing. Secondly, the agonizing loss of their personal narrative. Who were they before? What dreams did they hold? What loves did they cherish? For many D-Class, these questions become unanswerable as their memories are tampered with, their pasts erased, and their identities systematically dismantled. They become blank slates, defined only by their present suffering. This isn't just forgetting, it's a violent excision of their history, leaving a gaping void where their former self once resided. They become nameless, faceless entities, their individual stories swallowed by the insatiable maw of the Foundation. The horror lies in not knowing who you are, or who you were, leaving them floating in a present devoid of context, a future devoid of hope. Finally, the chilling realization that their very existence is a secret that can never be revealed. No one will ever know what they endured, what horrors they faced, or how they perished. Their suffering is for the benefit of a world that remains oblivious, protected by the very veil of secrecy that consumes them. There is no monument to their sacrifice, no acknowledgement of their pain. They are casualties of a hidden war, their lives extinguished in darkness, their screams unheard beyond the concrete walls. This finality, this utter erasure from the annals of humanity, is a profound and terrifying solitude. Their existence, their suffering, and their death are all whispers in the dark, destined to remain forever unspoken. The horrific existence of an SCP test subject is further underscored by the insidious nature of their confinement, the systematic psychological conditioning they undergo, and the crushing inevitability of their ultimate demise. These elements combine to create a prison not just of walls, but of the mind and spirit. Firstly, consider the insidious nature of their confinement. It's not merely about being locked in a cell. It's about being held within a system designed to strip away every vestige of individuality. The sterile, impersonal environments, the numbered jumpsuits, the lack of personal possessions, all contribute to a feeling of being less than human. They are moved from one containment chamber to another, always under surveillance, always under the watchful, unfeeling eyes of their handlers. Even when not actively engaging with an anomaly, the oppressive atmosphere of the Foundation itself is a form of torture. The silence is often broken only by the hum of machinery or the distant, unsettling sounds of something contained. There is no escape, no reprieve, only the endless, claustrophobic expanse of their captivity. Secondly, the systematic psychological conditioning they undergo. This isn't just about breaking spirits, it's about reshaping minds. Through repeated exposure to traumatic events, constant threats, and the systematic denial of basic human needs, test subjects are slowly, relentlessly conditioned to accept their fate. They learn to anticipate the next horror, to obey without question, and to suppress any rebellious instincts. This conditioning turns them into compliant tools, their free will gradually eroded until they are mere automatons, responding to stimuli rather than thinking for themselves. The horror lies in witnessing the slow decay of the human spirit, the transformation from a thinking, feeling individual into a shell of their former self, hollowed out by fear and obedience. Finally, and perhaps most terrifyingly, the crushing inevitability of their ultimate demise. Every test subject knows, deep down, that their time is limited. Whether it's through a catastrophic anomaly, a lethal exposure, or a scheduled termination, their end is a certainty. There is no hope of release, no chance of parole. This foreknowledge hangs over them like a spectral shroud, poisoning every waking moment. Each new assignment could be their last, each interaction with an anomaly a potential death sentence. They are living on borrowed time, counting down the days until their inevitable, unceremonious end. This constant awareness of impending doom adds a profound layer of existential dread to their already horrifying existence, making every breath a testament to their inescapable fate. The chilling essence of an SCP test subject's nightmare existence is further illuminated by the perpetual uncertainty of their fate, the profound moral compromises they are forced to confront, and the lingering corrosive effects of anomalous exposure. These are the deeper wounds, festering beneath the surface of their daily torment. Firstly, the perpetual uncertainty of their fate. A test subject never knows what the next moment will bring. Will it be a routine observation, a harmless interaction, or a sudden, excruciating encounter with something utterly beyond human comprehension? This constant state of not knowing is a relentless psychological assault. There are no patterns to discern, no safe zones to anticipate. Every door could lead to another horror. Every new voice could herald a fresh torment. This gnawing uncertainty gnaws at their sanity, making it impossible to find even a fleeting moment of peace. It's a life lived on the precipice, perpetually teetering on the edge of the unknown, where the next step could be their last, or worse. Secondly, the profound moral compromises they are forced to confront. In the grim calculus of the Foundation, D-class personnel are expendable. This often means they are compelled to commit acts they would never otherwise contemplate, to witness atrocities, or even to become instruments of harm themselves. They might be forced to observe the suffering of others, to activate dangerous anomalies knowing the consequences, or to directly interact with entities that twist their very perception of right and wrong. Their moral compass is shattered, forced to navigate a landscape where survival often means abandoning their humanity. The burden of these compromises weighs heavily, staining their souls with indelible marks of guilt and horror. Finally, the lingering, corrosive effects of anomalous exposure. Even if a test subject survives an encounter, the anomaly often leaves its mark. This isn't just physical injury, though that is common enough. It can be subtle psychological alterations, persistent hallucinations, new phobias, or even insidious changes to their very being that manifest over time. The anomaly doesn't always kill outright. Sometimes it twists, warps, and slowly consumes. A touch might leave them perpetually cold. A sound might render them incapable of hearing anything but a ceaseless shriek. An observation might embed an alien concept so deeply it unravels their mind. These are the silent scars, the unseen contagions that fester, ensuring that even escape, if it were possible, would offer no true solace. Their very essence is tainted, a horrifying testament to what they endured. The truly soul-rending aspects of an SCP test subject's existence extend far beyond the immediate terror, encompassing the complete lack of empathy from their overseers, the systemic normalization of their suffering, and the ultimate terrifying loss of self. These are the insidious poisons that seep into their very being, eroding them from within. Firstly, the complete lack of empathy from their overseers. To the Foundation, D-Class personnel are not people. They are resources, tools, data points. Their screams are just noise. Their pleas are irrelevant. Their fear a predictable variable. This chilling indifference is arguably more terrifying than outright cruelty. It signifies that their humanity has been utterly disregarded, that their pain holds no weight, and that their suffering is merely a necessary byproduct of scientific inquiry. The doctors and researchers, cloaked in their sterile professionalism, observe their demise with a detached clinical curiosity, making notes as life drains from their eyes. This cold, calculating disregard for human life is a constant, suffocating presence, a reminder that they are utterly alone in their torment. Secondly, the systemic normalization of their suffering. Within the Foundation, the use and disposal of D-Class personnel is a routine, accepted procedure. It is part of the established order, a necessary evil in the grand scheme of containing the anomalous. This normalization means that their horrific experiences are not seen as exceptional or tragic, but as commonplace. The guards, the scientists, even other D-Class who have been there longer, become desensitized to the screams and the disappearances. This creates an environment where suffering is not just endured, but expected, where the most grotesque outcomes are simply another entry in a report. This desensitization is a terrifying mirror, reflecting how easily humanity can rationalize and perpetuate unimaginable cruelty when it serves a perceived greater good. Finally, and most profoundly, the ultimate terrifying loss of self. Stripped of their names, their pasts, their identities, and their autonomy, test subjects slowly cease to be who they once were. The constant trauma and psychological manipulation erode their memories, distort their perceptions, and ultimately shatter their core identity. They become defined by their role as a test subject, their world shrinking to the confines of their next experiment. Their hopes, dreams, fears, and even their understanding of themselves are systematically dismantled until little remains but a terrified, compliant shell. This isn't just a physical death. It's the slow, agonizing murder of the soul, leaving behind a husk that merely exists, forever haunted by the shadow of the person they used to be, a person now irrevocably lost in the dark depths of the Foundation. Beyond the immediate horrors, the life of an SCP test subject is a ceaseless descent into dread, marked by the constant threat of unpredictable anomalous effects, the insidious psychological manipulation designed to break their will, and the terrifying, inescapable reality of their complete isolation. These elements combine to form a prison of the mind as much as the body. Firstly, the constant threat of unpredictable anomalous effects. Every anomaly is a wild card, a deviation from the natural order, and the D-Class are the unfortunate souls tasked with charting its unknown depths. They face creatures that defy biology, objects that warp reality, and concepts that fracture sanity. The horror isn't just in the known danger, but in the unknown potential. A seemingly innocuous artifact might cause instant disintegration, or a harmless-looking entity could rewrite their memories with a single glance. This ceaseless unpredictability breeds a pervasive, paralyzing fear, a dread that clings to their every breath. They are forever walking into the dark, blindfolded, with no idea what monstrous truth awaits them. Secondly, the insidious psychological manipulation designed to break their will. The Foundation understands that a broken spirit is easier to control than a defiant one. Through sensory deprivation, forced isolation, gaslighting, and the systematic erosion of their self-worth, they aim to dismantle any shred of resistance. Subjects might be fed false information, made to doubt their own perceptions, or subjected to mind-altering anomalies that leave them malleable and disoriented. The goal isn't just compliance, but utter subjugation, to transform a human being into a mere automaton, incapable of independent thought or action. This manipulation is a slow, methodical torture, a quiet terror that strips them of their inner strength, leaving them empty vessels for the Foundation's whims. Finally, the terrifying, inescapable reality of their complete isolation. Cut off from the outside world, their families, and any form of emotional support, test subjects exist in a vacuum of despair. There is no one to hear their cries, no one to advocate for them, and no one who even knows they exist. They are ghosts in a hidden machine, their suffering unacknowledged by the world they once inhabited. This profound loneliness is a chilling companion, amplifying every other horror. It ensures that their torment is not only absolute, but also utterly solitary, leaving them to face the abyss entirely alone. Their existence a secret whispered only within the cold, sterile walls of their clandestine prison. The true horror embedded within the life of an SCP test subject is not merely the fear of death, but the profound indignity of their existence, the complete dehumanization they suffer, the constant imposition of forced moral compromises, and the chilling realization of their utter disposability. These are the foundational terrors that define their every waking moment. Firstly, the complete dehumanization they suffer. From the moment they are designated D-class, they cease to be individuals with names, histories, or rights. They are stripped of their clothing, their personal effects, and any identifier that might connect them to their past lives. They are referred to by alphanumeric codes, treated as expendable resources rather than sentient beings. Their living quarters are stark, their meals meager, and their interactions with Foundation personnel are purely transactional, devoid of any human warmth or recognition. This systematic stripping away of their humanity is a profound act of violence, transforming them into mere objects to be manipulated and discarded. It's the ultimate erasure, a quiet horror that precedes any physical torment. Secondly, the constant imposition of forced moral compromises. Test subjects are often thrust into situations where they must choose between two unspeakable evils, or where their actions, however unwilling, contribute to the suffering of others. They might be forced to activate a device that harms another D-class, or to enter a containment chamber, knowing their survival depends on a horrific act. These forced choices gnaw at their conscience, leaving them with indelible scars of guilt and self-loathing. Their moral compass is shattered, their sense of right and wrong twisted into grotesque knots. This isn't just about survival, it's about the corruption of the soul, a darker, more insidious form of torture than any physical wound. Finally, the chilling realization of their utter disposability. Every D-class knows deep in their bones that they are temporary. They are cannon fodder, expendable pawns in a cosmic game they barely comprehend. Their lives are valued less than the integrity of a containment chamber or the acquisition of a new data point. This knowledge hangs over them like a permanent shroud, a constant reminder that their existence is fleeting and utterly without meaning to their captors. There is no escape, no reprieve, only the inevitable end, whether it comes from a monstrous anomaly or a bullet from a guard's rifle. This disposability is the ultimate insult, reducing their entire being to a footnote in a grim, classified report. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is a tapestry woven with threads of systematic dehumanization, the relentless psychological torment inflicted upon them, and the ultimate terrifying erosion of their sanity. These three pillars support a structure of suffering that few minds could ever truly comprehend. Firstly, the systematic dehumanization. From the moment they arrive, stripped of their names and identities, they are reduced to mere ciphers, D-class personnel. Their existence is solely defined by their utility as fodder for anomalous experimentation. They are housed in Spartan cells, fed unappetizing rations, and denied any semblance of personal dignity. Their bodies become instruments for data collection, their minds receptacles for anomalous effects. This process isn't accidental. It's a deliberate, calculated effort to sever any remaining ties to their former selves, making them easier to sacrifice. They are not people. They are tools, and tools have no rights, no feelings, no past. The Foundation ensures they understand this with chilling clarity. Secondly, the relentless psychological torment. Beyond the immediate physical dangers of anomalies, D-class subjects face a constant barrage of mental anguish. They are forced to witness unspeakable horrors, endure sensory deprivation, experience reality-bending phenomena, and grapple with the crushing weight of their own impending demise. They are subjected to experiments designed to probe the limits of their sanity, pushing them to the brink of madness and often beyond. The memories of their past lives are systematically erased or distorted, replaced by the trauma of their present. Sleep offers no escape, often plagued by nightmares of their experiences. This psychological warfare is constant, insidious, and far more damaging than any physical wound, leaving them hollowed-out shells of their former selves. Finally, the ultimate terrifying erosion of their sanity, the cumulative effect of dehumanization, psychological torment, and constant exposure to the anomalous inevitably leads to the fracturing of the mind. Some descend into catatonia, others into violent psychosis. Many simply break, losing their ability to process reality, their personalities dissolving into a haze of fear and confusion. They might begin to hallucinate, to believe impossible things, or to forget who they are entirely. The very fabric of their minds unravels, piece by agonizing piece. This isn't just a side effect. For many, it's the final, most profound horror of their existence. To lose one's mind in a world already so devoid of reason is to enter a personal hell from which there is no return, a chilling testament to the unbearable pressures placed upon them. The horrifying existence of an SCP test subject is further defined by the insidious erasure of their past lives, the chilling indifference of their captors, and the constant, overwhelming threat of anomalous phenomena. These elements combine to forge a reality more terrifying than any nightmare. First, the insidious erasure of their past lives. This isn't merely about forgetting, it's about a systematic, deliberate dismantling of their identity. Upon arrival, all personal records are purged, their names replaced by cold alphanumeric designations. Any attempt to recall or discuss their former existence is met with silence, subtle redirection, or, in more extreme cases, memory-altering procedures. They are isolated from the outside world, from friends, family, and any vestige of who they once were. This isn't just a loss of memory, it's a loss of self, a profound existential horror where their very history is deemed irrelevant, a ghost story untold. They become a blank slate, but one that is constantly being written upon with fear and trauma. Next, the chilling indifference of their captors. Foundation personnel, from researchers to guards, are trained to view D-Class as expendable assets, not human beings. Empathy is a luxury they cannot afford, a weakness that could compromise containment. This indifference manifests in cold, clinical instructions, unwavering gazes, and a complete lack of emotional response to the suffering they witness daily. A D-Class screaming in terror or dissolving into dust is merely a data point, an unfortunate but necessary outcome. This isn't malice. It's something far worse, a professional, detached apathy that sees humanity as a variable to be controlled or sacrificed. It's the silent, unblinking stare of a system that has long since forgotten what it means to feel. Finally, the constant, overwhelming threat of anomalous phenomena. Every moment is shadowed by the unknown. A test subject could be exposed to a creature that warps reality, a pathogen that dissolves flesh, or an object that steals their thoughts. The very air they breathe might suddenly become toxic. The walls of their cell might spontaneously reconfigure, or an unseen entity might whisper impossible truths into their minds. There is no predictability, no safety. Every alarm, every strange sound, every new directive could mean their immediate, grotesque demise. This isn't a threat that comes and goes. It's a pervasive, suffocating presence, an omnipresent horror that makes every breath a gamble and every step a potential plunge into an unimaginable abyss. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is ultimately defined by the clandestine nature of the Foundation itself, the profound indignity of their morally compromised existence, and the chilling, inescapable truth of their utter disposability. These are the final, crushing weights on their tormented souls. Firstly, the clandestine nature of the Foundation. The SCP Foundation operates in absolute secrecy, existing outside the bounds of any government or moral authority. For a D-Class subject, this means there is no appeal, no oversight, no external hope for rescue or justice. They are swallowed whole by a shadow organization, their very existence erased from public record. The world remains utterly oblivious to their suffering, to the horrors they endure, and to the sacrifices made in the name of containment. This isolation from the human collective amplifies their terror. They are ghosts in a hidden war, their screams unheard, their demise unmourned by anyone beyond the cold, sterile walls of their confinement. It's a fate worse than death for many, to be forgotten while still alive, to be a secret kept at all costs. Secondly, the profound indignity of their morally compromised existence. Many D-Class personnel are drawn from death row inmates or individuals with violent pasts. While this might seem to justify their fate to some, It creates a unique and profound moral quandary for the subjects themselves. They are forced to confront their own past transgressions while simultaneously enduring unspeakable atrocities, often in the service of a greater, incomprehensible good. Their very suffering is predicated on their perceived lack of worth, yet they are made to serve a purpose that transcends ordinary morality. This internal conflict, this agonizing self-reflection under duress, adds another layer to their torment, blurring the lines between punishment and sacrifice, guilt and victimhood. They are forced to pay a penance far exceeding any earthly crime in a realm beyond human law. Finally, and perhaps most crushingly, the chilling, inescapable truth of their utter disposability. Every D-class subject knows deep in their bones that they are temporary. They are cannon fodder, statistically insignificant in the grand scheme of containing the anomalous. Their lives are measured in experiments, their value in data points. There is no retirement, no release, only termination, whether by anomaly, by Foundation decree, or by the slow, grinding erosion of their own being. This knowledge is a constant, suffocating presence, stripping away any hope, any fight, any will to survive beyond the next test. It transforms every moment into a countdown, every interaction into a potential final farewell. Their existence is a prolonged execution, and the executioner is the very system designed to protect humanity at their ultimate, horrifying expense. The life of an SCP test subject is a chilling testament to systematic dehumanization, relentless psychological torment, and the ultimate horrifying erosion of their sanity. These are not merely unfortunate individuals. They are raw materials, transformed into tools for anomalous experimentation, their very humanity stripped away piece by agonizing piece. First, the systematic dehumanization. From the moment they arrive, their identities are surgically removed. Their names are replaced with sterile, impersonal alphanumeric designations: D-class personnel, D9341, D5603. They are not addressed as individuals, but as units, assets, or, at best, subjects. Their clothing is standardized, drab, and uniform, further erasing any personal markers. Their living conditions are Spartan, utilitarian, designed for control and observation rather than comfort or dignity. Every interaction with Foundation staff reinforces their status as something less than human. They are spoken to with clinical detachment, their suffering observed without a flicker of emotion, their pleas ignored. They are seen not as people with histories, fears, and dreams, but as variables in an equation, their bodies and minds mere instruments to be manipulated and discarded. This relentless reduction of their being is the first layer of the horror, a slow, agonizing death of self. Secondly, the relentless psychological torment they endure. This is not always physical. Often, it is far more insidious. Test subjects are routinely exposed to cognitohazards that warp perception, mimetic agents that corrupt thought, and psychological anomalies that induce profound fear or despair. They might be forced to witness unspeakable acts, to participate in rituals they cannot comprehend, or to confront entities that defy all reason. The constant uncertainty, the lack of information, and the ever-present threat of a sudden, brutal end gnaw at their mental fortitude. They live in a state of perpetual dread, their minds a battleground for sanity against the alien and the horrific. Sleep offers no true escape, often plagued by nightmares or the lingering effects of anomalous exposure. The Foundation doesn't just break their bodies, It systematically shatters their minds, leaving them hollow, screaming echoes of their former selves. Finally, and perhaps most tragic, is the ultimate erosion of their sanity. Under such extreme and prolonged conditions, the human mind inevitably buckles. The systematic dehumanization strips away their sense of self, while the psychological torment relentlessly assaults their cognitive and emotional faculties. Many succumb to catatonia, paranoid delusions, or violent breakdowns. Others simply cease to function, their eyes vacant, their spirits utterly broken. The line between reality and hallucination blurs, memory becomes unreliable, and their ability to reason or connect with others vanishes. They become shells, their minds irrevocably scarred, their humanity extinguished. They are transformed not into monsters, but into tools, living, breathing instruments of research, their suffering a necessary, if regrettable, byproduct in the Foundation's unending war against the unknown. Their sanity is the ultimate casualty, sacrificed on the altar of containment. The horrifying existence of an SCP test subject is profoundly shaped by three insidious factors: the systematic erasure of their past, the chilling indifference of their captors, and the constant, unpredictable threat of anomalous phenomena. These elements combine to forge a nightmare from which there is no waking. Firstly, the systematic erasure of their past. When an individual becomes D-class, their former life is meticulously expunged. All records are sealed, altered, or simply destroyed. Families are told fabricated stories of death or disappearance. Friends and acquaintances are subtly influenced to forget, or their memories are expertly modified. The subject's very identity, their history, their connections to the world beyond the Foundation's walls are meticulously wiped clean. This isn't just about security. It's a profound act of psychological violence. It severs them from everything that made them who they were, leaving them anchorless, without roots, without a sense of self beyond their designation. They become a blank slate, ready to be written upon by the Foundation's experiments. Their past rendered a ghost story only they can remember, and even those memories begin to fade under the relentless pressure. This erasure is a kind of living death, a preemptive burial of their soul. Secondly, the chilling indifference of their captors. Foundation personnel, from researchers to security guards, are rigorously trained to maintain professional detachment. They are taught to view D-class as expendable assets, necessary tools, rather than sentient beings. This isn't necessarily malice. It's a coping mechanism, a necessary psychological barrier to perform their duties. But for the test subjects, this indifference is a constant soul-crushing torment. There are no sympathetic glances, no comforting words, no acknowledgement of their suffering. Their pain, their fear, their pleas are met with a cold, clinical silence. This lack of empathy is perhaps more terrifying than outright cruelty, for it signifies their utter insignificance. They are not hated, they are simply irrelevant, their lives holding no intrinsic value to those who control their fate. It speaks to a level of dehumanization so complete that even basic human compassion has been extinguished. Finally, the constant threat of anomalous phenomena. This is the raw, visceral terror that defines their every waking moment. Unlike mundane prisons, the Foundation is a crucible of the impossible, the dangerous, and the utterly alien. Every door could lead to a reality-bending entity, a flesh-rending creature, or a mind-shattering concept. They are exposed to things that defy physics, biology, and sanity itself. Death is a frequent visitor, often in grotesque and unimaginable forms. But worse than death is mutation, transformation, or becoming inextricably linked to an anomaly, living out an eternity of horror. The subjects know that any experiment could be their last, or worse, could change them into something unrecognizable, something monstrous. This omnipresent, unpredictable danger is the ultimate terror, a constant reminder that their bodies and minds are merely experimental canvases for the unknown, with consequences that beggar belief. The harrowing existence of an SCP test subject is forged in the crucible of clandestine operations, the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives, and the inescapable, terrifying truth of their utter disposability. These are the pillars upon which their personal hell is built. Firstly, the Foundation's pervasive secrecy. The very nature of the SCP Foundation is clandestine. Its operations are conducted in the deepest shadows, hidden from the public eye. For test subjects, this means their suffering is entirely unseen, unheard, and unacknowledged by the outside world. There is no hope of rescue, no chance for external intervention, no public outcry to condemn their plight. Their screams echo in isolated bunkers, their deaths occur in forgotten chambers, and their very existence is a classified secret. This absolute concealment creates an environment of total impunity for the Foundation. With no oversight, no accountability to any external authority, the ethical boundaries become blurred, then erased. The subjects are truly alone, utterly at the mercy of an organization that operates beyond the reach of law or morality. This enforced oblivion is a psychological cage, far more potent than any physical restraint. Secondly, the indignity of their morally compromised lives. Many D-class personnel are drawn from death row inmates or individuals with violent criminal pasts. While this might seem a justification for their treatment, it introduces a profound moral indignity. They are forced to confront their past transgressions not through rehabilitation or penance, but through forced participation in terrifying, often fatal experiments. They are made to be complicit in the Foundation's work, often unknowingly, even unwillingly. Their lives, already tainted by their crimes, are further debased by being reduced to expendable resources, their moral agency completely stripped away. They are denied even the dignity of choosing their own suffering, becoming passive participants in a system that views them as less than human. This moral compromise is a heavy burden, adding another layer of despair to their already bleak existence. Finally, and perhaps most brutally, is the inescapable truth of their utter disposability. Every D-class knows deep down that they are temporary. Their purpose is to be used, consumed, and ultimately discarded. Whether through a fatal anomaly, a termination order, or simply the monthly culling, their time is finite. They are not expected to survive, nor are they intended to. This knowledge hangs over them like a permanent shroud, poisoning every moment. It renders their struggles meaningless, their hopes futile. They are not prisoners awaiting release. They are simply materials awaiting consumption. This disposability is the ultimate expression of their dehumanization, a stark, chilling reality that makes their lives a constant countdown to an inevitable, often horrific, end. Their existence is a temporary loan, their bodies and minds borrowed by the Foundation until they are no longer useful. The chilling reality of an SCP test subject's existence is brutally defined by systematic dehumanization, relentless psychological torment, and the ultimate tragic erosion of their very sanity. These are the insidious forces that strip away their humanity, piece by agonizing piece. First, the systematic dehumanization. From the moment they are designated D-class, subjects are stripped of their names, their identities, their individuality. They become mere numbers, interchangeable and disposable cogs in the Foundation's vast, unfeeling machinery. Their quarters are stark, their meals meager, their possessions non-existent. They are treated as objects, specimens, or tools, rather than people. Guards maintain a cold distance, researchers speak to them in clinical terms, and their bodily autonomy is non-existent. This isn't accidental. It's a deliberate, calculated process designed to break down any sense of self-worth or personal dignity. By reducing them to a utility, the Foundation can more easily justify the horrors they inflict. This dehumanization makes them easier to sacrifice, easier to forget, transforming living beings into mere data points. Secondly, the relentless psychological torment. The D-class experience is a ceaseless assault on the mind. They live in constant fear. Fear of the next experiment, fear of the unknown, fear of their fellow inmates, and perhaps most profoundly, fear of what they might become. They witness unspeakable horrors, the grotesque results of anomalies, and the brutal deaths of those beside them. They are subjected to isolation, sensory deprivation, and often deliberate psychological manipulation to gauge their reactions or break their will. The sheer unpredictability of their lives, the lack of control, the absence of any hope for escape or reprieve, creates a pressure cooker of anxiety and despair. This isn't just a byproduct of their situation. It is an active component of their suffering, designed to wear them down, to make them compliant, to ensure they offer little resistance to their grim fate. Finally, and most tragically, is the erosion of their sanity. Under such extreme and sustained pressure, the human mind inevitably buckles. The systematic dehumanization and relentless psychological torment combine to shatter their mental fortitude. Memories blur, reality distorts, and the line between fear and madness becomes perilously thin. Many subjects descend into catatonia, psychosis, or a profound, detached apathy. Their minds, once capable of complex thought and emotion, are reduced to a fractured mess, incapable of processing the unending nightmare. They become shells of their former selves, their sanity a casualty of their horrifying servitude. This isn't merely a side effect, it's often the desired outcome, as a broken mind is less likely to resist, less likely to remember, and ultimately less likely to feel. Their sanity is sacrificed on the altar of containment, their minds consumed by the very darkness they are forced to confront. The terrifying existence of an SCP test subject is perpetually shrouded in the systematic erasure of their past, the chilling indifference of their captors, and the omnipresent existential threat of anomalous phenomena. These are the spectral chains binding them to their nightmare. Firstly, the systematic erasure of their past. Upon recruitment, or more accurately, abduction, a D-class subject's former life is meticulously scrubbed from all records. Their name, family, friends, accomplishments, and failures all cease to exist in any official capacity. Memories, if they persist, are rendered meaningless, disconnected from any verifiable reality. This isn't merely a security measure, it's a deliberate psychological tactic. By severing all ties to their former identity, the Foundation isolates them completely, making them easier to control and dehumanize. They become a blank slate upon which the Foundation can write its grim narratives. Without a past, they have no foundation for a future, no anchor to hold on to in the storm of their present. This obliteration of identity is a profound violation, leaving them adrift in a sea of nameless terror. Secondly, the chilling indifference of their captors. The Foundation personnel, scientists, guards, administrators, are not overtly cruel, at least not in the conventional sense. Their cruelty is far more insidious. It is an absolute, clinical indifference. To them, D-Class are not individuals with hopes, fears, or pain. They are variables, data points, or at best, expendable resources. There are no expressions of sympathy, no gestures of comfort, no acknowledgement of their suffering. Orders are given in monotone, observations recorded without emotion, and deaths are logged as mere statistics. This cold detachment is arguably more horrifying than active malice, for it signifies a complete absence of empathy, a profound void where human connection should be. This chilling indifference reinforces the subject's disposability and isolates them further, sealing them within a bubble of unacknowledged agony. Finally, and perhaps most acutely, is the constant threat of anomalous phenomena. Unlike conventional prisoners, D-Class subjects face dangers that defy natural law and human comprehension. They are routinely exposed to entities that can warp reality, devour souls, rewrite history, or inflict unimaginable physical and psychological torment. Every experiment carries the potential for a grotesque mutation, an agonizing death, or an eternal, horrifying transformation. The threat isn't just death. It's a fate far worse than death, a dissolution of self, or an eternity of suffering at the hands of something utterly alien and terrifying. This omnipresent, unpredictable danger ensures that their lives are a perpetual tightrope walk over an abyss of the unknown, making every breath a gamble, every moment a potential encounter with unimaginable horror. This is the core terror, the anomalous shadow that darkens every single second of their existence. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is irrevocably shaped by the Foundation's absolute secrecy, the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives, and the terrifying, inescapable truth of their utter disposability. These pillars of their existence forge a living hell. Firstly, the Foundation's absolute secrecy. The SCP Foundation operates entirely outside the purview of any government or public oversight. Their existence, their purpose, and their methods are unknown to the vast majority of humanity. For the D-Class, this means there is no appeal, no legal recourse, no hope of external intervention. They are swallowed into a clandestine world, effectively erased from public record and memory. Their screams echo in a vacuum, unheard by anyone who could offer aid. This absolute secrecy ensures that the Foundation can conduct its operations, no matter how ethically dubious, without accountability. It transforms their captivity into a permanent, unchallengeable sentence, making their nightmare a hidden, unacknowledged truth. The walls of their confinement are not just physical. They are walls of silence, erected to keep the world blind to their suffering. Secondly, the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives. Many D-Class subjects are drawn from death row inmates, individuals who have committed heinous crimes. While this might seem to justify their fate to some, it does not lessen the horror of their experience. They are forced to confront anomalies, often at the cost of their sanity or their very being, not as an act of redemption, but as a punishment that far exceeds any legal sentence. Their lives, morally tainted from the outset, are further debased by being used as fodder for scientific curiosity. They are made to perform acts or endure situations that violate every sense of human dignity, stripping them of any last vestige of self-respect. This moral compromise means that even in their suffering, they are perceived as undeserving of pity, making their torment all the more profound and isolating. Finally, and perhaps most chillingly, is the terrifying, inescapable truth of their utter disposability. Every D-class subject understands or quickly learns that they are entirely expendable. They are temporary assets, their lives measured not in years, but in experiments. Whether they succumb to an anomaly, are terminated due to contamination, or simply outlive their monthly cycle, their fate is sealed. There is no escape, no retirement, no release. They are tools to be used and discarded, their lives holding no intrinsic value to their captors. This knowledge, that their existence is fleeting and their sacrifice meaningless, is a constant, gnawing terror. It robs them of any hope, transforming their daily existence into a countdown to an inevitable, often horrific end. This disposability is the ultimate degradation, the final insult to a life already steeped in unimaginable horror. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is a relentless gauntlet of systematic dehumanization, ceaseless psychological torment, and the tragic, inevitable erosion of their sanity. These are the insidious forces that dismantle them, piece by agonizing piece. Firstly, systematic dehumanization. From the moment they arrive, D-class subjects are stripped of every vestige of their humanity. They are assigned alphanumeric designations, replacing their names with cold, impersonal labels. Their clothing is standardized, drab, and uniform, erasing any individuality. Their living quarters are stark, utilitarian cells, devoid of personal possessions or comforts. They are fed bland, mass-produced meals, treated as livestock rather than human beings. Their bodies become instruments for experimentation, their minds mere processing units for anomalous data. This systematic process is designed to break down their sense of self, to make them view themselves as little more than property, an object to be manipulated. It's a calculated effort to extinguish the spark of personhood, transforming them into pliable, disposable tools. Secondly, the ceaseless psychological torment. This torment isn't always overt. Often it's a slow, grinding assault on the mind. The D-class are kept in constant uncertainty, never knowing what the next experiment will entail, or if they will survive it. They witness their peers suffer horrific fates, are forced to confront their deepest fears, and are subjected to anomalies that twist perception and reality. The isolation is profound, punctuated only by interactions with indifferent Foundation personnel or terrifying SCPs. Sleep is often disturbed by nightmares. Meals are eaten in silence, and their existence is a monotonous cycle of fear and dread. This continuous exposure to extreme stress and existential threat chips away at their mental fortitude, leaving them vulnerable and broken. Finally, and tragically, the inevitable erosion of their sanity. Under such relentless pressure, sanity becomes a luxury they cannot afford. The systematic dehumanization strips them of identity, while the psychological torment floods their minds with terror and despair. They might develop severe anxiety, paranoia, or depression. Some might experience vivid hallucinations, delusions, or a complete break from reality. The sheer incomprehensibility of the anomalies they encounter further fractures their grasp on the world. Their minds, once capable of rational thought, become battlegrounds for conflicting horrors until coherent thought itself becomes impossible. Their unique personalities dissolve into a quivering mass of fear and confusion. The D-class subject's journey is not just one of physical peril, but a descent into the dark abyss of madness, a final, horrifying transformation where the mind itself becomes another casualty of the Foundation's grim work. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is a chilling tapestry woven from the systematic erasure of their past, the cold, unfeeling indifference of their captors, and the omnipresent, terrifying threat of anomalous phenomena. These elements combine to form a suffocating reality from which there is no escape. Firstly, the systematic erasure of their past. Upon entry into the Foundation, a D-class subject's former life is meticulously expunged. All personal records are purged, family connections severed, and their very existence outside the Foundation's walls is effectively nullified. They are no longer a son, a daughter, a friend, or an enemy. They are merely a number. This isn't just a bureaucratic process. It's a profound psychological assault. By stripping them of their history, their identity, and their connections to the outside world, the Foundation isolates them utterly. They become ghosts in a hidden system, their memories fading into irrelevance, their personal narratives replaced by the grim reality of their containment. This erasure ensures that no one will come looking for them, and perhaps more crucially, prevents them from clinging to any hope of returning to their former lives. Secondly, the chilling indifference of their captors. The Foundation personnel, from the scientists to the security guards, often display a disturbing detachment towards the D-class. They are treated as objects of study, variables in an experiment rather than sentient beings. Their pain, fear, and suffering are rarely acknowledged, let alone alleviated. This indifference is a product of necessity, perhaps a coping mechanism for those who routinely expose humans to unspeakable horrors. Yet, its effect on the D-class is devastating. To be subjected to torment is one thing. To be subjected to it while being regarded with such clinical apathy is another entirely. It reinforces their disposability, their lack of inherent worth, and the futility of any plea for mercy. This coldness is a psychological weapon, shattering any illusion of empathy or humanity within the Foundation's walls. Finally, the omnipresent threat of anomalous phenomena. This is the core terror of a D-class existence. Every assignment, every interaction carries the risk of encountering an SCP that defies natural law, that can twist reality or inflict unimaginable harm. It could be a creature that feeds on fear, an object that induces madness, or a spatial anomaly that transports them to another dimension. The threats are varied, unpredictable, and often beyond human comprehension. This constant, pervasive danger means that every moment is fraught with potential horror. There is no safe space, no guaranteed reprieve. The anomalous is a looming shadow, an ever-present sword hanging over their heads, waiting to drop and unleash a terror that mere mortals were never meant to comprehend. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is a living nightmare, meticulously crafted from the Foundation's absolute secrecy, the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives, and the chilling, terrifying truth of their utter disposability. These are the pillars of their unending dread. Firstly, the Foundation's absolute secrecy. The D-Class exists within a clandestine organization that operates entirely outside the purview of any government, law, or public knowledge. Their facilities are hidden, their operations classified, and their very existence is a closely guarded secret. For the test subjects, this means there is no hope of rescue, no external appeals, no legal recourse. They are trapped within a self-contained system, entirely at the mercy of their captors. The world outside remains oblivious to their suffering, making their plight all the more desperate. This veil of secrecy ensures the Foundation's continued operation, but for the D-Class, it is an impenetrable prison wall, sealing them away from any chance of freedom or justice. Secondly, the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives. Many D-Class subjects are drawn from death row inmates, individuals already deemed expendable by society. However, regardless of their past transgressions, their current existence within the Foundation is one of profound moral degradation. They are forced to participate in experiments that are often ethically dubious, if not outright monstrous. They might be compelled to inflict harm, witness atrocities, or become unwilling participants in actions that violate every moral fiber. Their autonomy is non-existent, their choices stripped away. This constant exposure to morally compromising situations, coupled with their own helplessness, erodes their sense of self-worth and perpetuates a cycle of guilt and shame, even if they are merely victims. Their lives are not just physically brutal, but spiritually corrosive. Finally, the terrifying truth of their utter disposability. This is perhaps the most chilling aspect of all. D-Class subjects are not merely prisoners. They are resources, expendable tools in the Foundation's ongoing efforts to contain the anomalous. Their lives have a finite, predetermined value, and when that value is exhausted, they are simply eliminated. Whether through direct termination, accidental exposure to an SCP, or the monthly culling, their existence is transient. This knowledge hangs over them like a spectral blade, a constant reminder that their time is limited, their struggles ultimately meaningless in the grand scheme of the Foundation's mission. Their lives are cheap, their deaths unremarkable, and their ultimate fate is to be forgotten, another nameless casualty in the silent war against the unknown. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is a tormenting existence, crafted from systematic dehumanization, ceaseless psychological torment, and the inevitable, tragic erosion of their sanity. These three inseparable threads weave the fabric of their daily horror. Firstly, systematic dehumanization. From the moment they arrive, test subjects are stripped of their names, their identities, and every vestige of their former selves. They are assigned a letter and a number, D-Class personnel, and treated as little more than biological components within a vast, cold machine. Their living quarters are Spartan, their clothing uniform, their movements monitored. They are not addressed as individuals, but as units, their personal histories disregarded, their emotional responses dismissed as irrelevant. This process isn't accidental. It's a deliberate strategy to make them easier to utilize, to dispose of, and to forget. By reducing them to mere objects, the Foundation creates a psychological distance that allows its personnel to perform acts that would otherwise be morally reprehensible. The D-Class become less than human in the eyes of their captors and, tragically, often in their own eyes as well. Secondly, ceaseless psychological torment. Beyond the physical dangers, the D-Class are subjected to a constant barrage of psychological pressures. They are kept in ignorance about their fate, often isolated for extended periods, and forced to witness or participate in events that would break even the strongest minds. The fear of the unknown, of what anomaly they might face next, of what bizarre experiment they will be forced into, is a perpetual companion. They are deliberately deprived of comfort, hope, and any sense of control, creating an environment of profound helplessness. This sustained psychological assault is designed to wear down their resistance, to make them compliant, and ultimately to shatter their mental fortitude. The screams they hear from neighboring cells, the unsettling whispers of unseen entities, the sheer terror of their daily existence, all contribute to this insidious, unending torment. Finally, the inevitable, tragic erosion of their sanity. With their past erased, their humanity denied, and their minds constantly under siege, the D-Class are on an inexorable path towards madness. The human mind is not built to withstand such sustained horror, such profound isolation, and such complete powerlessness. Delusions, paranoia, catatonia, or violent breakdowns become common. Their grasp on reality frays, their memories become distorted, and their very sense of self dissolves into the abyss of their suffering. This isn't merely a side effect, it's an expected outcome, a tragic but unavoidable consequence of their horrifying existence. Their sanity is a casualty, another resource consumed by the Foundation's relentless pursuit of anomalous containment, leaving behind only the hollowed-out shells of what were once human beings. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is an abject horror, born from the systematic erasure of their past, the chilling indifference of their captors, and the constant, terrifying threat of anomalous phenomena. These are the spectral chains that bind them. Firstly, the systematic erasure of their past. Upon recruitment or capture, any records pertaining to a D-Class subject's former life are meticulously expunged or altered. Their names, families, accomplishments, and even their crimes are scrubbed from official databases, replaced by a simple alphanumeric designation. This isn't merely administrative, it's psychological warfare. By severing their ties to their former identities, the Foundation isolates them utterly. There is no one left to remember them, no one to search for them, no past to cling to in the face of the present horror. This erasure makes them ghosts, haunting the sterile corridors of the Foundation, their former lives dissolving into a forgotten dream, leaving them adrift in a terrifying, anonymous present. They become blank slates, ready to be written upon by the Foundation's grim experiments, their history replaced by a relentless succession of encounters with the inexplicable. Secondly, the chilling indifference of their captors. The personnel overseeing D-Class subjects, the guards, researchers, and even some medical staff, are trained to view them as tools, not people. Empathy is a luxury the Foundation cannot afford, and it is systematically purged from the interactions with test subjects. Orders are given in flat, dispassionate tones. Suffering is observed with clinical detachment. Death is recorded as data. There are no comforting words, no gestures of kindness, no acknowledgement of their agony. This cold, calculating indifference is perhaps more terrifying than outright cruelty, for it implies a profound dehumanization that permeates every level of the Foundation. It signifies that their pain, their fear, their very existence holds no emotional weight, no moral significance for those who control their fate. They are merely variables in an equation, their screams just background noise. Finally, the constant, terrifying threat of anomalous phenomena. Every day holds the potential for unimaginable horrors. The D-Class are routinely exposed to objects, entities, and locations that defy natural law, often with lethal or sanity-shattering consequences. One day, they might be ordered to interact with a sentient, carnivorous shadow. The next, to enter a room that warps time and space. The next, to simply observe an object that induces existential dread. The nature of these threats is unpredictable, ranging from instant obliteration to slow, agonizing transformation, from mental corruption to physical mutation. There is no training that can prepare them, no knowledge that can truly protect them. Every experiment is a roll of the dice, and the odds are stacked overwhelmingly against them, ensuring that fear is not just a feeling, but a perpetual, tangible presence in their horrifying existence. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is a chilling descent into a living nightmare, defined by the Foundation's absolute secrecy, the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives, and the terrifying truth of their utter disposability. These are the pillars of their subterranean prison. Firstly, the Foundation's absolute secrecy. The existence of the SCP Foundation, its mission and its methods are among the world's most closely guarded secrets. For the D-Class, this means their disappearance is permanent, their suffering unheard, their very existence unknown to the outside world. They are swallowed whole by an organization that operates beyond the reach of law, ethics, or public scrutiny. This impenetrable veil of secrecy ensures there is no hope of rescue, no chance of exposure, no external force that can intervene on their behalf. They are truly alone, trapped within a system designed to keep its horrors hidden from humanity. This clandestine nature amplifies their terror, knowing that their screams will never echo beyond the Foundation's reinforced walls, their torment never acknowledged by the world they once inhabited. They are erased, not just from records, but from the collective consciousness of mankind. Secondly, the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives. Many D-Class personnel are drawn from death row inmates or individuals deemed irredeemable by society. While this might seem to justify their treatment in some cold, utilitarian calculus, it adds another layer of moral degradation to their existence. They are forced into roles that often involve extreme suffering or death, not as punishment for past crimes, but as tools for a greater, often incomprehensible, purpose. Their remaining life holds no dignity, no chance for redemption, only servitude to the anomalous. They are stripped of agency, forced to participate in experiments that might violate every ethical boundary, and made to confront horrors that no human should ever witness. Their lives are not their own. They are borrowed, utilitarian instruments, used and discarded without a second thought. This profound indignity gnaws at their spirit, leaving them hollowed out and devoid of self-worth. Finally, the terrifying truth of their utter disposability. This is perhaps the most chilling aspect of their existence. D-Class personnel are not meant to survive long-term. Their contracts, if one could call them that, are temporary, ending either through termination, anomalous accident, or monthly culling. They are expendable resources, their lives valued only in proportion to the data they can provide. This knowledge hangs over them like a constant, unseen blade. Every interaction with an SCP, every experiment, every unexplained tremor in the facility could be their last. They are not merely facing death, they are living with the certainty of it, knowing that when their utility runs out, they will be discarded without ceremony or regret. This disposability transforms their lives into a perpetual countdown, a slow, agonizing march toward an inevitable, unmourned end. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is a tormenting existence, forged in the crucible of systematic dehumanization, ceaseless psychological torment, and the inevitable erosion of their sanity. These are the insidious forces that dismantle them, piece by agonizing piece. Firstly, the systematic dehumanization they endure. From the moment they arrive, D-class personnel are stripped of their individuality. They are assigned numbers, not names, and their attire consists of featureless orange jumpsuits that erase any personal identity. They are housed in Spartan identical cells, fed bland, standardized meals, and subjected to routines designed for efficiency, not comfort. Their interactions with Foundation staff are purely transactional, devoid of any human warmth or recognition of their sentience. They are referred to as resources or assets, never individuals. This relentless process of dehumanization is not accidental. It is a deliberate strategy to make their eventual suffering and disposability easier for Foundation personnel to manage. By reducing them to mere objects, the Foundation can perform unspeakable acts without confronting the full weight of their own moral compromises. It's a psychological buffer, protecting the sanity of the overseers at the expense of the subjects. Secondly, the ceaseless psychological torment. Even when not directly interacting with an anomaly, the D-class are under constant psychological assault. The sheer claustrophobia of their confinement, the monotonous routine punctuated by unpredictable horrors, the constant surveillance, and the complete lack of control over their own lives combine to create an environment of extreme stress. They live in perpetual anticipation of the next terrifying assignment, the next unexplained sound, the next sudden alarm. Their minds are fertile ground for paranoia, anxiety, and profound despair. They are denied any meaningful distraction, any genuine connection, or any hope for a future beyond the Foundation's walls. This isn't just discomfort. It's a deliberate, ongoing assault on their mental fortitude, designed to break their will and make them more compliant, or simply to see how much a human mind can withstand before shattering. Finally, the inevitable erosion of their sanity. Under such unrelenting pressure, the human mind inevitably buckles. The horrors they witness, the atrocities they are forced to participate in, the constant fear and the complete absence of hope combine to slowly, inexorably strip away their mental faculties. Many D-class succumb to various forms of psychosis, developing hallucinations, delusions, or catatonic states. Others simply withdraw into themselves, their personalities fractured beyond repair. Even those who appear outwardly stable often harbor deep-seated trauma, their minds scarred by the unspeakable. Their sanity is not a luxury. It is a fragile shield against an incomprehensible reality, and the Foundation ensures that this shield is systematically chipped away until nothing remains but a hollow, broken shell. Their minds, once vibrant, become yet another casualty of the Foundation's grim mission. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is a chilling tapestry woven from the systematic erasure of their past. the cold, unfeeling indifference of their captors, and the ever-present, terrifying threat of anomalous phenomena. These elements converge to forge a reality far more nightmarish than any fiction. Firstly, the systematic erasure of their past. Upon entry into Foundation custody, all personal identifiers, records and memories of a D-class subject's former life are meticulously expunged. Their names are replaced with alphanumeric designations. Their history becomes classified, and any attempt to recall or discuss their past is met with severe repercussions. This isn't merely about operational security, it's a profound act of psychological violence. By severing them from their identity, their loved ones, and their personal narrative, the Foundation isolates them completely. They become ghosts of their former selves, adrift in a terrifying present, with no anchor to who they once were. This erasure makes them easier to control, easier to use, and ultimately easier to dispose of. Without a past, they are less human, merely a vessel for experimentation. Secondly, the chilling indifference of their captors. Foundation personnel, from researchers to security guards, are rigorously trained to maintain a professional, detached demeanor towards D-class subjects. Empathy is a liability, compassion a weakness. They view the D-class as tools, data points, or necessary sacrifices in the pursuit of containing anomalies. This isn't overt cruelty, though that certainly occurs. It's a far more insidious form of horror. It's the silent, unblinking gaze of a scientist observing a D-class being torn apart by an SCP, meticulously recording the data without a flicker of emotion. It's the cold, clinical tone of an order sending a subject to their likely death. This chilling indifference is a constant reminder to the D-class that their lives hold no intrinsic value to those who control them. They are merely components in a vast, uncaring machine. Finally, the constant threat of anomalous phenomena. This is the existential terror that defines every moment of a D-class subject's existence. They are routinely exposed to entities and objects that defy natural law, often with unpredictable and devastating consequences. One day, it might be a sentient shadow that devours memories. The next, a sculpture that moves when unobserved. The next, a microscopic pathogen that rewrites DNA. The threat isn't just death. It's transformation, mutation, psychological corruption, or an existence far worse than oblivion. Every test is a gamble. Every interaction, a potential nightmare. They are forced to confront the impossible, to face horrors that would shatter the sanity of ordinary individuals, knowing that their role is to be the first and often the last line of interaction. This constant exposure to the utterly inexplicable and terrifying ensures that their lives are a perpetual dance with cosmic dread. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is a grim saga, underscored by the Foundation's absolute secrecy, the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives, and the terrifying truth of their utter disposability. These are the cornerstones of their living nightmare. Firstly, the Foundation's absolute secrecy. The entire operation, from the existence of anomalies to the use of D-class personnel, is shrouded in layers of impenetrable confidentiality. Test subjects are confined within hidden facilities, their very presence unknown to the outside world. Any attempt to communicate beyond the Foundation's walls is met with extreme prejudice, often leading to immediate termination. This secrecy isn't just a matter of protocol, it's a profound psychological weapon. It means that no one is coming for them, no one knows they exist, and no one will ever mourn their passing. They are truly alone, isolated from humanity, their screams unheard, their fates unrecorded by the world at large. This absolute anonymity ensures that the Foundation can operate without moral oversight, free to commit whatever acts it deems necessary, no matter how horrific, without fear of external judgment or intervention. The darkness that engulfs them is total, a void of silence where their suffering goes unnoticed. Secondly, the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives. The D-Class are not merely prisoners. They are forced participants in experiments that often violate every ethical standard imaginable. They are compelled to interact with entities that cause unimaginable pain, mental anguish, or grotesque physical transformations. They are made to be witnesses to and instruments of acts of extreme violence and degradation. Their bodies and minds are treated as mere instruments for scientific inquiry, their personal autonomy utterly obliterated. They are coerced into situations that leave them morally tainted, their actions, however unwilling, becoming part of the Foundation's grim work. This constant violation of their dignity, the stripping away of their agency, and the forcing of their participation in morally reprehensible acts leaves them not just physically and psychologically scarred, but spiritually broken. They are used, abused, and then discarded, their very existence a testament to humanity's darkest necessities. Finally, the terrifying truth of their utter disposability. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of a D-Class subject's life is the undeniable knowledge that they are completely expendable. They are a finite resource, brought in for a single month, expected to last, but ultimately destined for termination or a fate worse than death. There is no escape, no reprieve, no chance of parole. Every assignment, every interaction with an SCP carries the unspoken understanding that it could be their last. They are placeholders, human shields, and sacrificial lambs, their lives valued only as long as they serve a purpose, however brief. This knowledge hangs over them like a constant, invisible blade, sharpening the terror of every moment. They are aware of their inevitable demise, living out their final days in a state of perpetual dread, their existence a countdown to an almost certain, horrific end. This disposability is the ultimate horror, rendering their lives meaningless in the grand, terrifying scheme of the Foundation. The horrifying existence of an SCP test subject is perpetually shaped by three inescapable realities: systematic dehumanization, ceaseless psychological torment, and the inevitable erosion of their sanity. These are not merely consequences. They are deliberate, foundational pillars of their nightmare. Firstly, systematic dehumanization. From the moment they arrive, stripped of their names and assigned a D-Class designation, the process begins. They are no longer individuals, but units, numbers in a database. Their living conditions are Spartan, their interactions with Foundation personnel devoid of any recognition of their humanity. They are often referred to as resources or assets, never as people. Their basic rights are non-existent. Their bodies are subjected to invasive medical procedures without consent, their minds probed and manipulated. This isn't just about control, it's about making them easier to sacrifice. By denying their personhood, the Foundation creates a psychological distance that allows its personnel to send them into terrifying, often lethal scenarios without grappling with the moral weight of their actions. They become disposable tools, indistinguishable from the anomalies they interact with, stripped of all that makes them human. Secondly, ceaseless psychological torment. This isn't just a byproduct of their situation, it's an active, ongoing process. D-class subjects are frequently subjected to experiments designed to test their psychological limits, to observe their reactions to extreme stress, fear, and despair. They might be forced into isolation chambers for extended periods, exposed to auditory or visual hallucinations, or made to witness the horrific fates of their fellow subjects. The constant threat of the unknown, the arbitrary nature of their assignments, and the ever-present danger of anomalous entities create a state of chronic anxiety and terror. They live in a perpetual state of fight or flight, their minds constantly assaulted by fear and uncertainty. There is no respite, no safe space, no moment where they can truly relax. Their every waking moment is a testament to calculated psychological warfare designed to break their spirits and render them utterly compliant. Finally, the inevitable erosion of their sanity. Given the constant dehumanization and psychological torment, the breakdown of a D-class subject's mental faculties is not a possibility, but a certainty. The human mind is not built to withstand such relentless assault. Faced with unexplainable horrors, profound isolation, and the complete absence of hope, their grip on reality inevitably frays. They may develop severe paranoia, chronic depression, dissociative disorders, or psychosis. Memories might become fractured, their sense of self distorted. The anomalies themselves can have mind-bending effects, further accelerating this decline. Many subjects descend into catatonia, violent madness, or a state of profound apathy, becoming hollow shells of their former selves. Their sanity isn't just lost, it's systematically devoured by the very nature of their existence, leaving behind only the shattered remnants of what was once a human mind, a final, chilling testament to the horrors they were forced to endure. The horrifying existence of an SCP test subject is forged in the crucible of three chilling realities: the systematic erasure of their identity, the cold indifference of their captors, and the constant, terrifying threat of anomalous phenomena. These elements combine to form a truly inescapable nightmare. Firstly, the systematic erasure of their identity. Upon entering the Foundation, a D-class subject is stripped of everything that once defined them. Their name, their history, their past connections, their very sense of self, all are meticulously expunged. They become a number, a disposable entity with no personal narrative. This is not merely an administrative procedure, it is a psychological assault. Without a past, they are untethered, isolated from their own humanity. Their individuality is meticulously chipped away, leaving a void where a person once stood. Any attempt to cling to their former life, any mention of family or friends, is met with severe repercussions, reinforcing the message that their old self is dead. This erasure makes them easier to manipulate, easier to sacrifice, transforming them from complex human beings into blank slates upon which the Foundation can project its grim experiments. They become ghosts of who they once were, haunting the sterile corridors of their prison. Secondly, the cold indifference of their captors. The personnel of the Foundation, from researchers to security guards, are trained to view D-class subjects with a chilling detachment. Empathy is a liability, a weakness that could compromise critical containment protocols. Interactions are purely transactional, focused solely on the execution of experiments or the maintenance of order. There are no kind words, no gestures of comfort, no recognition of their suffering. Their pain, their fear, their pleas, these are met with stony silence or clinical observation. This profound lack of human connection is a form of psychological torture in itself, amplifying their isolation and reinforcing their utter insignificance. To be subjected to unimaginable horrors is one thing. To face them under the unblinking, uncaring gaze of another human being is something far more insidious. It speaks to a profound moral vacuum, where human life is weighed against abstract scientific goals and found wanting. Finally, the constant, terrifying threat of anomalous phenomena. This is the very essence of their nightmare. D-class subjects are the front line, the first point of contact with entities that defy natural law and often possess the capacity for unimaginable destruction, psychological corruption, or physical alteration. Every test, every corridor, every shadow could conceal a horror that could warp reality, devour minds, or tear flesh from bone. They are forced to confront the impossible, to witness things that shatter the mind, to endure transformations that strip them of their very form. There is no predictability, no safety, only the ceaseless, terrifying unpredictability of the unknown. This ever-present danger, coupled with their complete lack of control, ensures that fear is their constant companion, a cold grip around their heart that tightens with every passing moment. Their lives are a perpetual dance with death, or worse, with fates that transcend mere mortality. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is perpetually overshadowed by three grim realities: the Foundation's absolute secrecy, the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives, and their terrifying disposability. These pillars of their existence ensure a nightmare from which there is no awakening. Firstly, the Foundation's absolute secrecy. The very existence of the SCP Foundation is a closely guarded secret, operating entirely outside the purview of any government or public oversight. For the D-Class, this means total isolation. No one knows they are there, no one will ever come looking for them, and no one will ever mourn their disappearance. This clandestine nature grants the Foundation unchecked power over their lives, allowing them to conduct experiments of any nature, no matter how extreme, without fear of reprisal or exposure. It's a prison without walls, where the greatest barrier is the world's blissful ignorance. This secrecy transforms their suffering into a hidden horror, a scream that echoes only in the silent, forgotten corners of the earth. It reinforces their utter insignificance, their lives reduced to classified data points in an encrypted server. Secondly, the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives. Many D-Class subjects are drawn from death row inmates, individuals already deemed to have committed heinous acts. The Foundation leverages this, subtly or not so subtly, implying that their suffering is a form of atonement, a twisted penance for past sins. This narrative, whether true or false in their individual cases, strips them of any moral high ground, any claim to innocence, even as they face horrors far exceeding any earthly justice. They are forced into situations that often require them to make impossible choices, to commit acts they might never have considered, all under duress. Their very existence within the Foundation is an ongoing moral compromise, staining their souls and ensuring that even if they were to escape, they would carry the indelible scars of their participation in unspeakable acts. Their lives are not just physically brutal, but spiritually corrosive, Finally, their terrifying disposability. This is the ultimate truth of a D-class subject's existence. They are expendable. Their lives are valued only as long as they can serve a purpose, to prod an anomaly, to activate a strange device, or to simply provide a reaction for observation. When they are no longer useful, when an experiment goes awry, or when their monthly termination quota arrives, they are discarded without a second thought. There is no rescue, no reprieve, no chance of parole. Their fate is sealed from the moment they enter. This terrifying disposability is not just a threat. It is the very definition of their role, a constant, chilling reminder that their existence is a countdown to an inevitable, often horrific end. They are the sacrificial lambs on the altar of containment, their brief, agonizing lives fueling the Foundation's endless war against the unknown. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is a tapestry woven from the threads of systematic dehumanization, ceaseless psychological torment, and the inevitable erosion of their sanity, all meticulously orchestrated by the Foundation. These are not accidental byproducts, but deliberate methodologies to maintain control and extract data. Firstly, systematic dehumanization. From the moment they arrive, test subjects are stripped of every vestige of their humanity. They are not addressed by name, but by numerical designations, a cold identifier that reduces them to a unit of measurement rather than a person. Their living conditions are Spartan, often resembling kennels more than human dwellings, further reinforcing their status as less than human. They are subjected to invasive medical procedures, often without explanation or consent, their bodies treated as mere instruments for scientific inquiry. This relentless process of dehumanization is designed to break their spirit, to make them compliant, and to ensure that Foundation personnel can carry out their duties without the burden of empathy. It's a psychological bludgeon, slowly but surely beating away their sense of self-worth and autonomy, leaving behind a husk that merely exists. Secondly, ceaseless psychological torment. The Foundation doesn't just expose D-class to physical dangers. It deliberately engineers scenarios to inflict profound mental anguish. This can range from prolonged sensory deprivation, leaving them in absolute darkness and silence until their minds begin to fracture, to exposure to cognitohazards that twist perception and induce terrifying hallucinations. They are often forced to witness the gruesome fates of their fellow subjects, fostering a pervasive sense of dread and helplessness. The threat of anomalous phenomena, coupled with the knowledge that their lives are utterly disposable, creates an environment of perpetual terror. This torment isn't random, it's calculated. It aims to break their will, to make them malleable, and to extract data on the limits of human endurance and mental fortitude when faced with the utterly incomprehensible. Their minds become battlegrounds, ravaged by the relentless assault of fear and despair. Finally, the inevitable erosion of their sanity. Given the systematic dehumanization and ceaseless psychological torment, the erosion of a D-class subject's sanity is not a possibility, but a certainty. Their minds, unprepared for the anomalies they confront and unsupported by any form of human kindness, invariably begin to fray. They experience profound paranoia, delusions, acute anxiety, and often descend into catatonia or violent psychosis. Memories become jumbled, reality warps, and the line between what is real and what is a nightmare blurs irrevocably. This mental breakdown isn't a failure of the system. In many ways, it's an expected outcome, a data point in itself. A broken mind can still yield information, albeit in fragmented, terrifying ways. The Foundation observes this descent into madness with clinical detachment, documenting every shudder, every scream, every shattered thought. For the D-Class, sanity is a luxury they cannot afford, a casualty of their horrifying existence, leaving them as hollowed-out shells, trapped within their own shattered minds. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is profoundly shaped by the systematic erasure of their identity, the chilling indifference of their captors, and the omnipresent, suffocating threat of anomalous phenomena. These elements combine to forge a reality of ceaseless dread and profound emptiness. Firstly, the systematic erasure of their identity. Upon entering Foundation custody, test subjects are stripped of their names, their histories, their very sense of self. They become D-Class personnel, a numerical designation that serves to sever any ties to their former lives. All personal belongings are confiscated, any records of their past sealed or destroyed. This isn't merely administrative procedure, it's a deliberate psychological tactic. Without a past, without a name, without any connection to who they once were, they become easier to manipulate, easier to sacrifice. Their identity is replaced by their function, a disposable tool for the Foundation's inscrutable goals. This erasure leaves them adrift in a terrifying limbo, no longer truly human, yet not entirely an object. It's a profound loss, a spiritual death long before the physical one. Secondly, the chilling indifference of their captors. The Foundation personnel, from researchers to security guards, maintain a detached clinical demeanor towards the D-Class. They are viewed not as individuals with feelings or rights, but as variables in an experiment, necessary components in the containment of the anomalous. Empathy is a dangerous weakness in their line of work, and it is systematically purged. This indifference is often more terrifying than outright cruelty, for it signifies a complete lack of recognition of their suffering. There is no malice, only cold scientific calculation. Their screams are data, their fear a measurable response. This absence of human connection leaves the D-Class utterly alone in their torment, facing unimaginable horrors with no one to offer solace or even a moment of recognition of their personhood. It is a profound, soul-crushing isolation. Finally, the constant threat of anomalous phenomena. This is the very reason for their existence within the Foundation's walls. D-Class subjects are routinely exposed to entities and objects that defy natural law, often with lethal or sanity-shattering consequences. One day, it might be a creature that induces unbearable dread. The next, a cognito hazard that warps their perception of reality, or a spatial anomaly that tears them apart molecule by molecule. This threat is not static. It is dynamic, unpredictable, and utterly terrifying. Every door could lead to their demise, every experiment a roll of the dice with their very being. There is no safe haven, no moment of true peace, only the lingering shadow of the next horrifying encounter. Their lives are a perpetual tightrope walk over an abyss of the unknown, where one wrong step means an end far worse than death. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is irrevocably shaped by the Foundation's absolute secrecy, the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives, and the terrifying, ever-present reality of their utter disposability. These elements coalesce into a pervasive atmosphere of dread and futility. Firstly, the Foundation's absolute secrecy. The D-class personnel exist within a clandestine world, completely cut off from the outside. No one knows they are there. No one will ever look for them. This secrecy is a double-edged sword. It protects the world from the anomalies, but it also ensures that the test subject's suffering remains unseen, unheard, and unacknowledged. They are ghosts, living shadows in a hidden war. This isolation is absolute. There are no letters home, no visits, no communication with anyone beyond the sterile, indifferent walls of the facility. The very existence of the Foundation, and by extension their own, is a secret that the world cannot know, making their suffering profoundly solitary. They are erased from the world, left to rot in the dark, their pleas echoing into a void of classified information. Secondly, the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives. Many D-class subjects are drawn from death row inmates or individuals with violent criminal pasts. While this provides a veneer of moral justification for their use, it also inflicts a deeper, more insidious indignity. They are deemed expendable not just because of their current situation, but because their past actions have, in the eyes of the Foundation, already stripped them of certain rights. They are forced to confront horrors, not as heroes or even victims, but as tools, their very existence a morally grey area. Their lives are a constant reminder of their compromised status, often forced into acts that further erode their already fractured moral compass. The irony is bitter. To save humanity, they are made less than human, their final days a testament to a system that views them as means to an end, regardless of the cost to their soul. Their moral past is used as a justification for their horrific present, trapping them in a cycle of indignity. Finally, their terrifying disposability. This is perhaps the most chilling aspect of their existence. D-class subjects are not expected to survive their tenure. They are consumables, brought in for a month, then typically terminated or exposed to something so dangerous that survival is impossible. There is no hope of release, no possibility of parole. Their lives are finite, with a grim expiration date looming over every experiment. This disposability means that extreme risks are taken with their lives, experiments conducted with little regard for their well-being as long as data is collected. They are sent into encounters with world-ending threats, not to fight, but to provide a reaction, a data point, a scream. This knowledge hangs over them like a shroud, a constant reminder that they are merely fodder, their brief, horrifying existence a sacrifice for a world that will never know their name. Their end is not merely death, but oblivion, a final, terrifying erasure. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is a torment born from Foundation-orchestrated systematic dehumanization, ceaseless psychological torment, and the inevitable terrifying erosion of their sanity, all in the name of control and data extraction. Firstly, the systematic dehumanization. From the moment they arrive, test subjects are stripped of their humanity. They are issued numbered jumpsuits, their names replaced with alphanumeric designations like D54321. They are housed in cramped, sterile cells, treated not as people, but as biological units. Interactions with staff are minimal and purely transactional, devoid of any personal touch. Guards see them as security risks, researchers as data points. This process isn't accidental. It's a deliberate strategy to reduce the D-class to objects, making it easier for Foundation personnel to perform their duties without being burdened by empathy. It creates a psychological distance, allowing the horrors inflicted upon them to be seen as necessary procedures rather than acts of cruelty. This dehumanization is the bedrock upon which all other torments are built, a slow, insidious process that hollows them out from the inside. Secondly, the ceaseless psychological torment. Beyond the physical dangers of anomalous exposure, the D-class endure a constant barrage of mental anguish. They are forced to witness unspeakable horrors, to interact with entities that twist perception and reality, and to live under the perpetual threat of violent, inexplicable death. The isolation, the lack of information, the uncertainty of their fate, all contribute to a relentless psychological assault. They are often given just enough information to understand the gravity of their situation, but never enough to truly comprehend or prepare. This calculated ambiguity breeds paranoia and despair. Some experiments are designed specifically to test mental resilience, pushing subjects to their breaking point, shattering their beliefs, and leaving them as quivering wrecks of their former selves. The psychological wounds are often deeper and more lasting than any physical injury. Finally, the inevitable erosion of their sanity. With systematic dehumanization and ceaseless psychological torment, the descent into madness is not a possibility, but a certainty. The human mind is not built to withstand the constant exposure to the anomalous, the profound isolation, or the terror of disposability. Memories blur, reality warps, and the line between sanity and delusion dissolves. Many D-class subjects succumb to catatonia, violent outbursts, or profound psychosis. Their minds break under the strain, leaving them as hollow shells, incapable of coherent thought or emotion. This erosion of sanity is not merely a side effect. It is often an expected outcome, a final horrifying transformation that completes their journey from human being to broken instrument, their minds consumed by the very horrors they were forced to confront. We have journeyed through the abyssal depths of an existence most would deem unfathomable. The horrifying life of an SCP test subject is not merely a narrative of confinement, but a meticulously constructed descent into madness, orchestrated by an organization sworn to protect humanity, yet built upon the broken minds and discarded bodies of the expendable. We've illuminated how their very identity is systematically erased, their past rendered meaningless, leaving them as blank slates for the Foundation's horrifying experiments. The chilling indifference of their captors, a cold, calculated detachment, ensures that their suffering is merely data, their screams just ambient noise in the sterile corridors. And always, the suffocating, omnipresent threat of anomalous phenomena looms, an unknown terror that could twist their flesh, shatter their minds, or simply snuff out their lives in an instant. We've seen the profound indignity of their morally compromised lives, their past transgressions used as a cruel justification for their present torment. They are deemed disposable, a terrifying reality that strips away any semblance of hope or self-worth. Their existence is a secret, shrouded in the Foundation's absolute clandestine operations, ensuring that their screams will never reach the ears of a world they unknowingly protect. And perhaps most cruelly, we've witnessed the systematic dehumanization, a process designed to carve away their very essence, transforming them from individuals into mere instruments. This is compounded by the ceaseless psychological torment, a relentless assault on their minds that bends and breaks even the strongest wills. The inevitable erosion of their sanity isn't a tragic accident, but an expected outcome, a final, horrifying transformation as their minds succumb to the endless horrors they are forced to confront, all for the Foundation's insatiable hunger for control and data extraction. The SCP Foundation, in its noble quest to secure, contain and protect, has created a purgatory for those deemed expendable. Their lives are a macabre tapestry woven with threads of terror, despair, and unimaginable suffering. To be an SCP test subject is to exist at the very precipice of human endurance, to be a living sacrifice in a silent war against the unknown. It is a life not lived, but endured, a chilling testament to the price of normalcy, paid in the shattered fragments of human souls. So the next time you sleep soundly, remember the unseen horrors that lurk just beyond the veil of reality. And remember the silent screams of those who face them, day after terrifying day, their lives a perpetual nightmare, so that yours can remain a dream. For in the shadows where the anomalies dwell, so too do the forgotten, their horrifying existence the true cost of our collective ignorance.